Welcome, I'm Rogers Anderson. Today, as we travel around our county, and as you can probably see from the insignia on the shirt, we thought we'd talk a little bit about the Williamson County Fair that just concluded, and with DeWayne Perry, our extension agent. Used to be called the Ag Extension Agent, but welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. Good to be here.
You know, we've just finished up the 2014 Williamson County Fair, which was the 10th year fair, and it was built all around construction. And I thought we'd spend some time today in the area, in the ag side of the fair, which you were there in the very beginnings when we kind of drafted up this idea of the fair and how we needed to build it around ag and how we needed to keep it educational and you know, the areas of education and teach our children. But I don't think you or I had any idea that the fair would mushroom into what it is today, DeWayne.
I think you're right. It's really been a pleasant surprise that it's been so successful.
You know, before we actually get into the fair, let's drop back a period of time. I hope it don't hurt your feelings. Say 30 years ago, and
you can go past that.
Tell us a little bit about DeWayne Perry. I know you're from Franklin County, but let the folks know how you got involved and why your life has just been centered around the agriculture side of what we do.
Well, I did grow up in Franklin County and was very fortunate. Went to school at University of Tennessee. It was interesting. Nobody in my family had been to college, and the county extension agent there and the VOAG person were very influential in, I guess, direction in my life. But the Rotary Club there in Winchester had a $300 scholarship that was for somebody going to University of Tennessee at Knoxville and majoring in ag, and I was able to get that scholarship, and that probably influenced my going in that direction. But when I came out of school, interviewed with the extension in Knoxville. They have a POO type thing where they do that, and was told that I might be getting a call about coming down to Williamson County, and had no clue where Williamson County was, to be honest with you. But this all worked out, and was followed Mr. H.Y. Beeler here, which was a really important thing. He was a good supervisor and big influence on my life and direction of my programming and that sort of thing.
Now that was about 1970.
74.
And Mr. Beeler had been here, who we've had on the show in prior times. He'd been here a long time also.
Mr. Beeler came here, I believe, in 47. He was in World War II and came in shortly after his service in the war.
So between the two of you gentlemen, for the last 60 years, the agricultural / extension agent's been handled by the two of you. And I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of changes in Williamson County, but also in the ag farm side here in Williamson County.
Yeah, when I came here, and Williamson County is still an important ag county in the state, but when I came here, it was really one of the top 4 or 5 counties in several areas: dairy, forages, and then some of the row crops, tobacco. It was a very important county in many ways.
Today, our 4-H group of young boys and young girls, and still a lot of parents, still a growing part of our community. I don't think people really realize just how important that is to our community still today here in 2014.
Yeah, you know, we had a good junior livestock program when I came. The dairy was much more of a factor then. We had sometimes up to 100 animals that would go to the state fair, dairy project animals. And the beef was kind of under that in terms of the importance. But the change has been more toward the beef, and then we added the sheep project, I guess, in the early 80s, and that was a big thing. That was a way for boys and girls to have an animal project that was smaller, safer, less expensive. And it was interesting, this year was the first time that we've had goats as an official project, I guess, at our expo, and that was very popular in its first year.
One of the things, and we'll get into the fair, but I mean, some of the things that I asked for you to kind of relay to was the sale that we've had, and that's been around for early 80s, that you actually, the boys and girls could bring their beef, and now even the goats, the sheep, etc. The product that they had raised, nurtured, and eventually would be sold at a sale, and we brought that to the fairgrounds this year, and it seems to be very successful, DeWayne.
It was very successful, and the lots of factors. I think we were exposed to a somewhat different audience. We had people who had been supporting the event for years because of us requesting their support that had never been to the event that came this year, I think, because it was at the fair. And then we again tapped into some people who were already supporting the fair. Just the publicity of going to be there, I think, was a difference. And it was an interesting thing, moving back outside with the auction versus being inside the big arena there at the Expo Center. We had a kind of a closer, atmosphere that was good, I think, for the auction.
Now, for the people watching this show, they may not be familiar with what we're actually doing. So let's take it from the start to the finish, and the boys and girls that are involved. And we say boys and girls, but it's those parents that encourage their children to raise this steer or whatever animal we happen to be talking about.
Right. The Market Steer Project, years ago was known as the Fat Calf Project or different things, but just finishing a calf to market weight where it's ready to be harvested to go in somebody's freezer, that's an old project in terms of 4-H and BOAG, FFA type things. I did that myself when I was in high school.
So they had cows back in that time?
They had cows way back then. But it's a great project. It helps them see the climax of what beef cattle business is about, and we don't have much of that here. Most of our calves off of the cow-calf herds around the county are sold as feeder calves, and people don't see finished calves. But it was interesting, these calves that we have this year, they'd already been to the state show before this county event here at the fair. So we actually had ultrasound data on those steers that gave us information about their fat thickness, the expected marbling score, and the square inches in the ribeye. So we had all that data that was available to the buyers that was, again, available at the sale that night. There was a lot of information.
Can you think back 30 years ago in the early 80s when you were doing this? I'm sure there's got to be some contrasting values of then. I know on your sheet of paper there. Just share a little of this.
Well, when I was doing it, I remember selling some calves in the 20-cent range, 20-something cent range, and that was not. And
a lot we're talking about on the hoof.
On the hoof, yes. And this year, I think we sold our champion animal for something over $4 a pound here. So that's a big change. And
we're seeing. I mean, I'm sure back in the days when you and I were doing this as 4-H projects, oftentimes it was businesses, oftentimes banks that were in the community that want to show their support for that individual. But today's market is not a lot different, but it's getting businesses involved and engaged, and we saw a few more come on this year.
We did. We were very fortunate. We had several, some of the fair sponsors. Cigna was one of the ones that came in. The Humrick Construction Group came in. We've had support for years from people like Lee Company.
Fantastic.
They've been so good. And Ed Supply, one of the wholesale suppliers to people like Lee Company, they've been real solid supporters of our thing. We have a lot of local businesses that's been awful good to support us through the years. Farm Credit is closely connected, to the farm community. They're almost always there, but several attorneys and people like that.
Funeral home?
Right, the funeral home almost always buys one, Williamson Memorial, and they usually have theirs processed, and the family kind of splits it up. So,
the money that's received from the sale of these steers, what happens to it?
It goes to, in many cases, sends boys and girls to college. This thing, we started in 1980 at the strong encouragement from several families after having disappointing results at a state sale that was held then at state fairgrounds. And we sold 11 steers that first year and averaged a little bit over $1 a pound. I hadn't been here that long and didn't really understand trying to make something like that work, but fortunately we had some business people in the community that did. Hubert Hill was a big factor. Mr. Oscar Sanders that ran a Purina store here, they were big factors. Larry Dale from the co-op was kind of my peer, but we all worked together and pulled that off that first year, and it really was a spark plug for that junior livestock program. We expanded, I think, after that year, and also had lambs, and I had some information here from the '04 sale where we had 32 steers, 72 lambs, and it grossed $132,000, that sale did, which again, we went for years with pretty much since then we've had about $100,000 from that sale for the boys and girls involved.
It's a wonderful way for an individual to learn the true value of hard work and then putting some money in their pocket to help them with their continuing education, or use it for whatever they see fit.
Well, there's such an opportunity for boys and girls to develop responsibility with working with something like this. It takes that daily effort to halter break a calf like that. You've got to feed him and water him and take care of him every day. You deal with health issues and having him, a 1,200-pound calf broke to a level that you can bring him out to an event like that. And it's really something for a little 70, 100-pound kid to be able to do that. Now it takes, and parents have to be involved, but it's quite an accomplishment. And it's interesting the confidence that it can build in kids as they accomplish that, and they pull that off, and they compete in showmanship and all the different things that are part of it.
Well, hats off to you and to your efforts, and to all those moms and dads and boys and girls that are involved in that and on this event, and we'll look forward to that in the 2015 fair. Hopefully that'll be something that'll continue to grow and flourish and backfill a lot of the activities that we do throughout the year. And it's a time for the showcase. I couldn't go away from the show today and not reflect on watching one of the young ladies. Like you said, she might have weighed 60 pounds, and that would include her boots and hat that she had on. And that old steer was kind of, I won't say that he was arguing with her, but she won the argument on 2 or 3 levels. A couple of times tried to pull away, and she'd take control of it. And I was kind of chuckling, a little 70-pound girl, young girl, teenage girl, literally walking around a 1,000-pound steer plus. The steer lost.
I should mention my co-workers. I'm very fortunate to have people like Matt Horseman and Julie Osborne, Larry Darnell there that are doing most of the work in terms of making that show happen, and all the other people that are involved too, many volunteers and all that.
Let's talk a little bit more about specifically the 2014 Williamson County Fair, which again, hard work, a lot of sweat. We're still trying to recuperate. Our body doesn't bounce back like it used to.
No, you're right.
But what a beef show we had this year.
It was huge. Mary Ann Blankenship chairs that effort, and we approached 400 animals in that show, and it just it strained our facilities, and in terms of just being able to handle the volume. But we're just very fortunate. You know, we're in a good location in terms of getting there from both east and west, and I think we just have tremendous potential to continue that high number of animals in the show.
And how many counties would you estimate, or even, and I don't even know if you can do that off the cuff like this, but are actually participating in that beef show?
I'm not sure. We had animals here from the corners of the state, and just right down on the Alabama line. And in fact, the Polled Hereford show is designed where that they can be members of that and show from across state lines. We had several people from out of state that were part of that. I shouldn't say Polled Hereford, it was Hereford this year. They merged the Hereford and the Polled Hereford show, and it was really a regional point show for them. But we have a lot of people come from Dyersburg area. That seemed like a popular area that we have producers come from, as well as they have an active VOAG program there. And we had those people here several times during the week to show at the fair from Dyersburg.
And you know, our fair next year will begin the first Friday night in August. I'm not sure the exact date. I think it's August the 7th, 2015.
A little bit later.
But more than likely that event will be another successful event. And if people want to get involved in that, they certainly can go to the Williamson County website, but you also have a website or a phone number that people can call.
Sure, we get a lot of calls. A lot of people call the chairman of the shows, like Mary Ann, directly. We're fortunate to have people like her involved that just know a high percentage of these people personally, and she knows that area. She knows the show rules. She understands the different classes, different breeds, and that's such an essential thing to have someone like her involved in running a show.
Well, falling back a little bit, even the gentleman that was judging the steers for the sale that we were talking about with the 4-H, I heard several people that are not in the ag business that were hanging around the fence when I was down there. They just appreciated him kind of giving some of the history and what to look for, what caused the steer to grade out the way it did. I mean, he makes some points to you. That's just second nature, but there's so many people that don't understand that.
He really did a good job of working to our crowd that night and trying to bring up the, like you say, some basic information like that. That was very interesting. Bobby Singleton from Murfreesboro was our judge. He is in West Tennessee on a Hereford operation now. It's the job he has, but he's an example of the kind of person we usually have judging those shows. That's very knowledgeable and trained to make those decisions in a good way.
DeWayne, other than the beef side, I know the sheep and the lambs and the goats. I mean, it's all of us just mushroom into a very excellent numbers.
Well, it was interesting launching the fair after having a good junior program like we had for all those years. We had the people and we had the contacts. I mean, we had the Osborne family very involved in running that dairy show, for example. And of course, our junior dairy show is the regional junior dairy show, the official 4-H regional show that used to be at the state fair. See, it's at our county fair now. And the Osbornes and Jay and Jessica and then Julie run that show. And we had a tremendous show that night, and it's 2 nights at the fair. You know, first night's a junior show, the next night's open, and there's just some very high quality dairy animals involved in that. And Willis Gillum, you know, is very involved in all the small ruminants, the goats and the sheep. And again, we had good shows with that. A lot of sheep from West Tennessee came in here for that, a big show. And you know, in addition to the livestock, then we could get off on all the other educational things about ag, the Little Ones Farming that Sherry Sanders gives leadership to, and the Children's Barnyard that Brenda Clarkson and Julie Osborne give leadership to. All that is just, it's something way above a county fair level. We've been fortunate to do it right from the beginning, thanks to the good job y'all have done on sponsorship and that sort of thing.
Well, and we do want to put a plug in certainly to our major sponsors, our Nissans, and I hate to start going down through the list because I'll overlook somebody, but you take just Larry Dale and the Williamson Co-op. He's been there from day one. And not only is he writing the check to help do the summit, he's physically there. Now, we had a little health issue with someone in his family, and he wasn't able to be with us on the first weekend, but that 9-day show is put on by and paid for the most part by our sponsors. And you know, we've got 4 or 5 dozen major sponsors, and then of course the vendors are there to help with the food. But you look around Little Ones Farming from day one with Sherry and her hard work that she's done. It's probably the highlight that I hear more comments about in anything that we do.
Right. Well, Sherry was one of a group of people that we had an interest in trying to do some kind of educational thing like that about agriculture, and we were able to again get the Fair Board's attention from the beginning, and again because of good funding, we're able to just hook up with professional people that helped us come up with a professional exhibit, and then they put in all the other little frills that make it such a good thing. And of course the people's what really makes it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've been to exhibits like that in other areas where you had the educational exhibits and components there, but you did not have the people there helping those kids know how to milk a cow and helping them understand that you plant a seed this way and all those kind of things. That's part of it. The Gentrys are there every night with their expertise, and they bring a lot to it. I talked to a lady at the bank one day. I was there. You coming to the fair? Yeah. You got kids? Yeah. We go to the Little Ones every year. We know the Gentrys. They give us some ice cream. And Purity, of course, is who makes that happen. They've been there with us since the very beginning. We really appreciate their support.
And when you think about the 10-year history of the fair and how it's grown, the Little Ones Farming, we all know it's been there. It's mushroomed.
Right.
I have not seen the final numbers on Little Ones Farming this year, but based on the attendance of the overall the fair, I would say that Little Ones Farming increased their numbers just like everyone else. But you just look at the whole area. We were beginning to really push the envelope on the facilities that we have there. Now, forget the logistical side of trying to park all those trucks and trailers, which is a incredible feat. Oftentimes, I won't say that you and I had dark hair when we started the fair, but it's not gotten any darker in the last 10 years. And Bill Beavers and the hard work he puts in to trying to put all this together. But you know, as I sit here and talk with you, we need help. We need more volunteers. We've got about 1,300 or 1,400 volunteers that put on this fair. We've got one paid person. And I think most people have heard that. It's a not-for-profit organization. It's not part of the Williamson County government. The fair board authorized the renting of that facility. So as you look at the scope of this, and it's just a 10-year-old fair, after it had been gone for some 55, 56 years, we're only limited by the number of people that want to participate in and the events that we can have based on the physical space that we have at the Ag Center.
Yeah, it's amazing what what something like the fair brings on. I mean, we had a very loosely connected cattlemen's group when we started the fair, and there was a lot of talk about bringing in community groups to be vendors and to be a part of the fair and to help build the fair. And it was from that conversation, I guess, that we talked about with the cattlemen's bringing in, trying to do a food booth. You know, we called that the Cattleman's Corral. But the result of that was we've had a lot of families that probably would not have been involved in the fair that are just up to their noses involved in the fair now. People that come in and help unload trailers, that help go get water for the fair in general, that just do all kinds of things to make the fair happen. And you have to have that. And that's with the Cattlemen's group. We probably have 75 different people that have been serving in some role as a volunteer, both to help run that food booth, which directly benefits the 4-H Club program, but also just do things in general to help the fair.
And it's almost, as a couple of people have pointed out to me, there's different segments of the fair. You're certainly down on the ag side, and then we've got other parts of the fair that are on the inside, the entertainment piece of it. Then you've certainly got your Midway. We've got a very fine, outstanding Midway gentleman by the name of Jimmy Drew that has contributed. And he doesn't just contribute by bringing his rides and taking your money. He's feeding money back to you, helping you.
He's helped us with the 4-H steer sale every year.
And he's helped us and so many of the other. I mean, he is really, truly an outstanding gentleman that I've had the opportunity to know just like you have. And he really does love the fair. I mean, for him, it's the Midway side. But he understands you've got to have these other components and these other pieces in order to make this work. DeWayne, we got about 5 minutes. Put on your crystal ball, look down the road. How do we handle the continued growth of the Williamson County Fair in the next 5 and 10 and 20 years?
Well, I don't know. You and I have had some conversations. I would hope that something would surface close to the fair to be a place for some overflow parking. I think that's one of our big ones. Other than that, you know, I think there's room for continued growth within that facility. You know, we keep playing with different ways to do things, and I think everybody involved, you know, is doing a good job. You know, Lee Sanders is a guy, you know, upstairs there with all the ag stuff. That we had a great exhibit there, you know, with the vegetables and the hams,
outstanding,
all that kind of thing.
And I need to touch on. I will interrupt you because we need to touch on the Century Farm program that we brought back a few years ago.
That was very impressive this year. We had 2 new families, and both of them had comments from some young people in the family about the properties and things they had done with it and history. That was very impressive. Kanita Hankins does a great job with that.
And the Century Farms, if people are watching, is a program that if your farm's in the in Williamson County and it's in the immediate family, and certainly Century's 100 years, but we have several farms that are knocking on the door 200 years.
Well, and have the Glenn's out in College Grove, that's a pioneer farm. It was a farm in that family before Tennessee was a state. So it's really wonderful to give that kind of recognition to that, and we've been fortunate. The Cattlemen's Group sponsored that meal, and I think that's a wonderful place for them to be connected in terms of doing something for the community. We really enjoyed doing that.
2015 will be here before we know it. And I know there's people that will watch this show and, well, I don't have the land to raise a steer or be involved in cattle or sheep, but they could still be involved if they've got a love for it. So many of us,
right.
this generation, the baby boomers that you and I fall under, we may not have been, I certainly was not a full-time, my dad worked shift work, but we had crops and we had, beef that we took to the market. That's how we survived through the winter months, canning and freezing and raising your own crop. So I know there's men and women out there that are in our age bracket that would like to contribute or participate. We need them, don't we?
We need them. It has become a community thing, but we just need to continue to add people to the fair, the people that love tradition, love history, and love agriculture. We need them involved in the fair.
And there's another reason. Those young folks, they'll kind of spark you a little bit. They'll get you motivated.
Right. Yeah, and just seeing their enthusiasm and seeing the fact that in most cases the proceeds from the prize monies and things gets used to help them get started in life. In many cases, become a way to go to college.
Have you got a rough number of what we actually wrote out? And you may have to explain this to folks that aren't familiar. We call them premium dollars that people submit their products, and we pay out some dollars to them for first place, second place, third place.
I don't really have it. I think, did you mention earlier in our conversation the fair paid over $60,000?
Over $60,000 in premium.
And that would be everything, but a significant part of that, probably 20,000, or probably closer to 30 or 40,000 of that might have been animal, livestock type things, I would say.
You know, those people now, I still raise a garden and enjoy it. Because of my involvement with the fair, I don't participate in submitting those, and I hate to take away winning from Reese and Steve Smith, and their tomatoes, but I may challenge them someday. We've got about a minute left. DeWayne, any closing remarks? I know you got a wonderful staff out there. You've got great participation. We've got some new upcoming young people that you personally have hired and catered to teach them this business. Any closing remarks?
No, we're just so blessed to have that group of people around us there. I mentioned some of them, and we hope they stay. And they have a real passion, I think, for the job. And I think an interesting thing about the fair is the way so many people in county leadership roles have helped. Sadie, Wade, and Brenda, and so many of those have. Joey Davis, as you said, talked about him earlier. Those people have really made a difference with the influence they have about helping get people involved in the fair. We're very fortunate.
DeWayne Perry, the Extension Agent here in Williamson County, and you've made a difference, and we thank you for that. I'm Rogers Anderson. As we close out this show, come back next time. We'll have another interesting conversation with somebody in our county. Have a good day.
What should I make my password? Oh, I know. I'll make my password password. Passwords should be unique, private, non-personal, and secure. Use more than one word. Use different character classes, use symbols and numbers, and use multiple passwords for different sites. And always remember never to share your passwords.